and you're suggesting London is bigger than Liverpool. If there's only Arsenal Football Club who's got more league titles than Everton, then you can just discount London.
I think it depends how far. It depends if you want to go back to.
But you can go back as far as you want. You can bring cavemen into it. It ain't going to change the argument.
What's happening, everyone, and welcome to 888 Sport. Today we are discussing something that I think has the potential to be very flammable. We are asking what city is the most fertile ground for football? Ped, I have a feeling that you may have a fairly strong opinion on this. So I'm going to come to you first.
Because it's clearly Liverpool. Merseyside is the most fertile place for football. You only have to look at the last, let's forget, even if you're not even talking about teams, the last generation of great players, Wayne Rooney, Steven Gerrard, those two players on their own in the last generation. I could go back so many years, though. It's got to be Liverpool. It's got to be Merseyside.
No doubt.
29 titles between the two clubs. Six European Cups and a
you celebrating that?
And a cup in his cup between us.
Yeah, it's evenly spread.
Evenly spread. All those League Cups that we've won between us. All those FA Cups that we've won between us. Honestly, we beat everybody out the park here.
Success. This city is smothered in success. There is no doubt that Scousers have most certainly got to be at the top of this list. Me and Pez, we don't agree on a lot of things, but this is one thing we very much certainly can agree on.
Manchester, it does go nuts for it, though. The same way that these guys are going at it, and you look at Manchester United being the most successful club in English football, and especially in the Premier League era for me as well, that City, and now City are actually good. I think they would equally argue that city turns mad. You get families falling out. You get family and friends going at it. So I would give a case for Manchester, but on a personal note, I don't feel like I'm the right person who's qualified to actually come and do that. And I'm going to be honest. Realistically, I've got to say it's London.
Oh, hang on. Right. There's one team in London, right, that has got 13. more. No. Listen, hang on, Rory, come on. There's one team in London that has more league titles than Everton Football Club, right? I know we're not a thing at the moment. I know we aren't a thing in the Premier League. I know we haven't been a thing for a long time. I appreciate that. But there's still only one club in London has got more league titles than us. In fact, you can add Chelsea's and Tottenham's together, and you still wouldn't have more league titles than what Everton have got. And you're suggesting London is bigger than Liverpool. If there's only Arsenal Football Club who's got more league titles than Everton, then you can just discount London.
I think it depends how far. It depends if you want to go back to.
But you can go back as far as you want. You can bring cavemen into it. It ain't going to change the argument. It ain't going to change the argument, is it?
In my lifetime, no disrespect, Everton have not been relevant.
No, they haven't. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the biggest cities in the country for football.
I think that's what it is. It depends on the era that you come from. But to me, Chelsea and Arsenal are two massive clubs. Yeah, Spurs have become a biggish club. They haven't won anything, but they've got an NFL stadium. Big deal. Big deal. Good luck to them.
I think that it comes to the stage. I think that Liverpool, if you were to do it kind of pro rata, pro population, Liverpool is huge. It punches above its weight and is amazingly, considering its size, the second city of football compared to London. a quarter of the Premier League is London.
Yeah, but that's because we're so small. There's like 800,000 people in Liverpool.
Yeah.
So for a start, it's not a big place. It's got two Premier League teams.
And how many of them are Wolves? That's what I want to know.
Across the park from each other, by the way, our Premier League teams are.
We can't speak to that, Rory. We can't speak to that. I can't even understand. I mean, I know I'm really, really biased on this, but and maybe this will be the only thing I ever win, but you've got to give it to him because the simple fact that nobody else comes near.
Well, London does, surely.
No, it's got 8 million people.
Professional clubs.
That's because it's got 8 million people in. And
exactly.
Obviously got nothing else to do but create football teams.
No, Ped, I think that we're probably agreeing then, because you're saying that London is bigger because it has more people, and I agree that that's true. So pro rata, I think Liverpool, because it punches above its weight massively, so much more significant than any city that it's comparable to. But basically, with London, you can't compare anything to London because London is a metropolis.
No, it's its own thing.
It's a metropolis, absolutely. Yeah. But when you think about the amount of players that have come, when you mentioned Gerrard and Rooney, and of course they are elite legends of the game, Premier League greats. But equally, I could have gone Rio Ferdinand, John Terry, Ashley Cole. You know what I mean? I think it goes on. So I think perhaps for this debate to actually make it significant, I think we should probably talk about this conversation, but without London, because London is a metropolis. It's unfair to compare anything to London. It's almost unfair to compare Paris to London.
It is still unfair.
Paris, you can only compare London to like New York or Tokyo. You need to compare cities.
Capital is different.
No,
if you do that, it's then Liverpool, isn't it? It isn't.
It's got to be. It can't be anywhere else.
I've got a boxing coach, right? And he supported Liverpool and Celtic his whole life, mate. That being said, when Gerrard went to Rangers, he hates Gerrard now. He doesn't care that he's a Liverpool legend. He's a Celtic fan as well, and he's a massive Celtic fan. Now that Gerrard has gone to Rangers, he can't stand Gerrard no more. And whenever I get asked Celtic or Rangers, you might as well not give an answer. Because, mate, they are passionate about their talking, and I don't think it's above Liverpool. Listen, Pez, I'm with you on this one. But just to throw in other cities that
massive, man.
Listen. If you're talking about cities and if we're expanding it outside of England, then obviously Glasgow would be huge. And I do mean that, because I think again I'm of a different generation, so I look at Celtic and Rangers, and the amount of times I hear young kids say, if Celtic or Rangers come in the Premier League, they get relegated. If Celtic or Rangers come in the Premier League and you give them 10 years, honestly, I don't. Celtic are huge, a huge football club. Rangers are a huge football club. If you give them 10 years in the Premier League, they could do anything they wanted. The money they get would be unbelievable. The fan base they've got is incredible. And if you're talking about two clubs who hate each other, you're both right. They hate each other more than anybody else. It's not football. We know what it is. It's not football. It's on different lines completely.
I mean, I'm inclined to agree. I think that Liverpool, if we take London out of it, which I think is the fair thing to do, I think that Liverpool are head and shoulders above.
I still think Liverpool beats London, though.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. I was going to say,
I do. I just think it's
about the ratio of people who were in Liverpool. Obviously, it's a small place, but when you talk about the ratio of people who were so invested, not only know about it, but are so invested into football, into Derby Day, into everything around.
James, you've just changed the question.
Liverpool, then that's
you've just changed the question because you've said if we make it pro rata. But if we don't make it pro rata, you see London.
You're absolutely right. No, you are right, Rory, because there is a completely different feel when you go to London and you go to all those. They're not little places, but it's London. London doesn't have a centre, does it? It obviously doesn't have a centre as such.
No, you're right. I live in the borough of Camden, and there's probably, in my borough, one borough, there's probably half of the population of Liverpool. So it's ridiculous to compare. That's what I mean. It doesn't make sense.
You can't quantify it. You can't.
No, you can't quantify. Whereas when you come into Liverpool, the actual city on a match day and experience just what it's like to be in and around the centre of the city.
Yeah.
Ped, you could have a day out in London. Chelsea could be playing Arsenal.
Oh, yeah.
Tottenham could be playing West Ham, and you could be in central London and not even know those games are happening.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That sounds really grim.
What I can talk about is from a point of view, like I know it's a little bit different. It's moving the goalpost slightly. But going up into Liverpool when they're playing Man United and stuff, it's like a similar, like it takes over the city. So like if I'm catching a cab or whatever, the cab man's got it on in the radio. Everyone's talking about it. You go into the shop to buy something. Even if you're not near the ground, you might be in Liverpool Town Centre, might be shopping at Liverpool One. Like that it takes over.
Exactly. So I think it's unfair to compare London. Like London is a big enough city with enough stadium. Like London could house and host a European Championship.
Oh yeah, easy. Yeah.
London. So it's not right to compare it, but
no.
I would agree with you. I think that Liverpool are head and shoulders above every other candidate for this in the UK. As I've really enjoyed this debate. Please do us a favour and comment. Will you let us know what city in the UK do you think is the most fertile hotbed of football? We look forward to reading those comments. I have a feeling I know whose supporters are going to be very prevalent in these comments, so I'll be looking out for those. I've enjoyed this. Cheers, lads, and we will see you all on the next 888 Sport video. Cheers.